Hello there, readers. Ah, I hope you have been enjoying some of this warm weather that it's not been too warm where you're at. I know I've been really needing some sunshine, and one of my favorite things to do is sit outside and read. It, it just makes for the best days, the best start to the days as well. Breakfast, outside, good book, mwah, perfect. So this week, we are going to be reading a book called Fibblestax by Devin Scillian. Now, one of the neat things about this book is I have actually met this author. That he is currently from the Detroit area, and he's a newscaster, and he writes kids' books, believe it or not. And so, years ago when I worked at the bookstore, he came to do a signing, and I got his books. So Fibblestax is a neat book because it talks about words and where words come from and the power of words. And as someone who firmly believes that words are very powerful for good and not so good, I really, really liked this story. And I thought it would be fun to share it with all of you. So, here we go. Fibblestax by Devin Scillian, illustrated by K.U. Darnell. And here we are, illustrated by Catherine Darnell. Always give an illustrator's name, because though the words are important, the pictures really help bring those words to life in picture books. I dreamed again of Fibblestax, sitting among his books, peering into the candlelight with a calm, thoughtful look. For he's the one who gives a name to every single thing. If not for him, we couldn't talk, or read, or write, or sing. He called the dog a dog, and he named the cat a cat. He called the little mouse a mouse, and he called the big mouse a rat. He decided a whisper sounded like a whisper, and a smile looked like a smile. He called my parents mother and father, and he called me a child. To be sure, it wasn't Fibblestax who always gave the names. There was before him another man who ran away in shame. His name was Carr, a red-faced man who sat on a hickory trunk and gave terrible names to wonderful things like toad and snake and skunk. He thought up all the awful words in a careless, haughty way, words like sphere and xylophone and others I can't say. He gave the names to all the things that seem so boring and bland, and he made up all the doctor words, the ones I don't understand. But worst was the name he gave to the boy with hair the color of flax, a sweet young boy with a heart of gold, and he called him Fibblestax. If the boy was bothered by his clumsy name, no one heard him say, and his sunny smile was always there as he followed Carr each day. For Fibblestax was very bright, and one of his favorite games was to look at all of Carr's mistakes and think of better names. You know, he said to Carr one day, who was sitting near the stream, this glooby wickus in my cup, why, it looks more like cream. And these flying creatures, these hoochbaroos, there must be better words. Carr just groaned, but Fibblestax said, they look to me like birds. A few more things, the boy went on, like trees instead of grunks, and I much prefer the sound of flowers to the sound of gunnywunks. You think it's easy? Old Carr boomed, full of empty pride. Then try it, little Fibblestax, and we'll let the people decide. And so it was a contest. The whole town would judge the game. Each was given a list of 5 things. Each thing needed a name. Contest! The things we say, the trinkets of our tongue. Shall it be Carr the elder, or Fibblestax the young? by order of the mayor, come this very day, and weigh these worthy wordsmiths. Come without delay. Ha ha! Laughed Carr, the old buffoon. This list is too hard for you. But Fibblestax only smiled and said, I'm ready to play. Are you? The crowd was quiet and looked at the boy. How could he be done? You see, he said, I've thought of these things, and I've named them every one. Carr was shocked, but Carr was sly, and he smiled and laughed anew. Then let it begin this very day, for I have pondered too. Old Mayor Brodie held up the list. Number 1, he called in a cry. Name the drops of water that fall from a cloudy sky. Ah, yes, said Carr, you mean the droog. It's droog, he tried to explain. The crowd looked to the little boy, who simply said, It's rain. Rain, sighed the crowd in a whispering hush, and they nodded and smiled at the sound. Carr just humphed, but though he'd lost, there were still 4 words to be found. The next, said the mayor, looking at the list, is item number 2, a name for the crispy little squares we eat with soup and stew. Again Carr smiled. Poonies, he said, and raised his arms overhead. But Fibblestax hated poonies. Crackers is what he said. Crackers! Cried the laughing folk, applauding all around. The mayor was clapping his hands too, for that's how crackers sound. The boy went on to name 3 and 4, the next 2 on the list. While old Carr fumbled, Fibblestax named oranges and the mist. There's just one more, said the honorable mayor, the hardest of them all. This will decide who gives the names the rest of us will call. Carr looked at the boy with piercing eyes and wiped his sweaty brow. The crowd grew silent. The mayor stood tall and finally said, Here now, this is that feeling, that very strange feeling, a dreamy kind of cheer. The feeling that makes you feel so good when a special friend is near. The people looked at one another. What a difficult end to the game. Each of them knew of that wonderful thing, but it didn't have a name. Mr. Carr, Mayor Brodie said, give us your word if you may. But Carr stood still, as white as snow. He had nothing to say. He shook a bit and bit his lip and finally said in a shout, How can I give this thing a name? I don't know what you're talking about. You see, the things that Carr had named were things he already knew, but he'd never felt that special way. It was something he could not do. Perhaps, said the mayor, there is no word. And he crumpled the list in his glove. The people shrugged and looked at the ground, when a quiet voice said, Love. What did you say? The mayor asked the boy, a tear filling his eye. Fibblestax smiled. It's love, he said, and the people began to cry. They hugged and sang into the night till the moon fell from view, and they left for their home, still saying the word, the very best word they knew. Old Carr was gone. He felt so lost, he simply ran away. Fibblestax turned to the mayor and said, Maybe he'll find it someday. Love is in the air, and it's all around. Everybody's dancing. Beautiful picture. Tells so much of a story with no words. I know this tale so very well, and yet there's more to know. So in my dream I turn to ask one thing before I go. Your name, I say, is Fibblestax, a terrible name for a man. You deserve a better name. Change it if you can. Oh no, he says, I'll not do that. It's a little reminder for me to always find the perfect name for all the things I see. And yet, he says, it's what's inside. A name sometimes distracts. For everyone's a special soul, even one named Fibblestax. There he sits with his books and notes and the end. So one of the things that I like about this book is that it prioritizes love. That love is that special word that not everybody feels, but when you do, you know it. But I didn't want to interrupt the story, but one of the other things is sometimes he says he named mother and father and me child. Well, sometimes you don't have a mother and a father. Sometimes you have a mom and a mommy, or a dad and a daddy, or just a mom, or just a dad, or sometimes that special person that takes care of you is an aunt or an uncle or a grandpa, and all of those people are just as important. All of those people matter because they love you. And love is what helps us grow. Like flowers need sunshine. We need the love of friends and people that care about us and that we can care back. And I stress all of that because I do not know you, but my heart loves you. Because you matter. If to no one else it feels like, no, you always matter to me. Until next time, very happy reading.